Hello, and welcome back to the triumphant return of Charting with Dan, Mr. Dan Murrell.
It's been a while.
It's been a long. We have a
Been over a
lot
month
to catch
since we've
up
charted.
And a lot happened.
We don't have more charts, but I'd say we have a lot more to talk about today.
A lot happened. You know, Ragnarok, maybe the destruction of worlds, but it saved the box office.
Big time.
Yeah.
It's good.
Let's talk about Thor.
Let's talk about Thor Ragnarok. Opened a little bit higher than even Disney's expectations. Opened at over $120 million. So this is a movie that hit big with audiences, had a great cinema score, had some of the best reviews as far as percentage-wise on the tomato meter that Disney's ever had. The 7th best opening weekend ever for a Marvel film. Opened higher than Spider-Man Homecoming by about $5 million, which I think if you had asked me a year ago, what's going to open higher, a Spider-Man movie or a Thor movie?
Right.
I would have said easily a Spider-Man movie. Ragnarok, at least in the U.S., opens bigger than Homecoming.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it does make you wonder how much that tomato meter really does play into things, because it was a very high tomato meter score. Certainly, this is the best Thor opening that we've seen, and
By
for
far.
many, the people's favorite Thor film so far.
Marvel has kind of perfected this. Usually, movies kind of go down, like the first one will go big and the second one will open higher and then the third one maybe a little bit lower. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, now the third entries in all of those series have opened at their biggest numbers of the franchise. So they have kind of gotten this art of escalating a series as it goes down to an art. The sequel's opening bigger than the originals and the second movies, which is...
Third time is a charm.
Third time's the charm for Marvel.
This is Taika Waititi directed this, who is, I love him. He's one of my favorite directors. However, this is by far his largest film to date. Let's take a look at what he did.
Let's take a look at the top 5 Taika Waititi opening weekends. I love doing this because, usually it's a director that's like, oh, this one opened to $120 million. Here's another movie that opened to $40 or $50 million. But if you look at the top 5 Taika Waititis, which is actually the top 4 because he's only done 4 movies, Thor Ragnarok is number 1 opening, surprise, surprise, with $122 million. Number 2 was What We Do in the Shadows with $88,940, which makes Thor Ragnarok Taika Waititi's biggest opening weekend by a margin of $122,656,049. Thor Ragnarok made more in Thursday night previews than the combined grosses of all of his other movies. So Disney, they with James Gunn and Peyton Reed, they kind of went for directors that had done maybe smaller movies, but kind of more mainstream movies. Taika Waititi was one of their biggest outliers as far as here's a guy who has never done anything on this scale before. You look at these numbers, obviously it paid off for them.
Yeah, and previously, though, in the last Thor movie, Alan Taylor had really only done a bunch of TV, had done a bunch of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, and...
Another big bet, though, was the Russo brothers.
The Russo brothers was a big bet,
TV.
They've done TV primarily, so that's kind of the direction they've been going is, hey, this may not have been on a huge scale, but because with Alan Taylor, I feel like, oh, he did Game of Thrones, he's done this big epic thing, he's done the kind of feel that we're going for with this movie, he's going to bring to this movie what we want, and I think Dark World was one of the least successful critically and as far as in the fans' eyes of all the MCU movies. So I think that they kind of adjusted and said, we don't necessarily need to go for a director who's going to bring us the style we think we need. We want to go for someone who's got a great style and they can bring that in. All of their own, and they can bring that in.
The Russo brothers coming on hot off of Community.
Yep.
But I would suggest if you haven't seen Taika's earlier films, you should, because they're fantastic.
What We Do in the Shadows is one of the funniest movies of the
ever
decade.
made. Like,
it is hilarious.
I took it to another level.
Yeah.
I took it to a whole other
I
level.
went decade, you went ever.
I said ever. It's hilarious. You should see it.
Could be both.
Bad Moms Christmas also opened this weekend.
Let's look at the top 5 for the weekend. It was pretty much all Thor. The other movie, Bad Moms, actually opened on Wednesday to kind of get a jump on the crowd before Thor opened. Had a weekend total of about $16 million. It's made about between $20 and $25 million. That's not bad. It's tracking a little bit behind the original. Bad Moms had the advantage of opening in the summer. This is not a summer movie, but it is the first holiday movie out of the gate, so it's got some time. It might have some legs. Kind of working against it, though, if you're saying could this catch up to the original because it's the holiday season? Is it going to have the kind of legs that the first one did? I mean, Bad Moms did great and really legged out their opening, I think, to 4 or 5 times what it made. Signs seem to point to no. the reviews critically were worse than the first one, but even more so, the audience reaction to this one was not the same. The Bad Moms had an A cinema score. This one had a B cinema score, so it's saying that, audiences aren't necessarily thinking this is as good as the first one either. So my guess is this one's going to start to lag even more behind the original. So not a bomb, definitely. I think it's going to do all right, but certainly not building on the success of the first movie.
Maybe that'll be third time's a charm for that one too. Also,
Maybe so.
what's tricky about that is probably when they originally scheduled that, they thought, oh, we'll be the comedy that weekend, and then there's the superhero movie, which is 100% also a great comedy.
We said in the review, it's a comedy first and then a superhero movie.
We missed out on a lot while we were gone.
We did.
Let's talk about some of it.
We did. Well, let's talk about the ones that are in the top 5, and then we'll loop back to some of the movies. One of them, unfortunately, not still in the top 5, which bummed both of us out. But let's talk about the number 3 movie of the weekend, Jigsaw. That was kind of marketed as a reboot of the franchise. Audiences didn't think so much. It opened about on par with the last Saw film, which was Saw 6. It's tracking about the same. It might gross a little bit more than the last Saw movie, but it's still going to be the second lowest gross in the franchise. But as with all these Saw movies, it was made for a budget of $10 million. It's grossed $60 million worldwide, so it's going to make a tidy little profit. But I think what they were kind of going for in marketing this movie was, this is a new Saw. It's been a while. This is a reboot. Having seen the movie myself, I can say that that's not really what it was. It was just another Saw movie. Yeah. They just named it differently because I think they knew if they named it Saw 7, people would go like, I've seen that. So Jigsaw, it's going to make a tidy little profit, not the series franchise rejuvenation that they were looking for.
You know what we need to talk about?
Yes.
Geostorm.
Oh, boy. This is a movie that's not going to make a nice, tidy little profit. This was a massive bomb here in the United States. This movie had a budget of $120 million. It was shot in 2014. This was shot it was shot 3 years ago and went through some really costly reshoots as far back as last year. It had several release dates. It kept getting pulled and pushed and rescheduled. It has grossed less than $30 million here in the United States. It's made over $150 million overseas, though. It's definitely one of these movies that's playing better overseas. It's still not going to make a profit, though, based off of its budget. There's estimates that this movie's going to lose $50 to $100 million for the production companies behind it, which would be Skydance, Warner Brothers, and Rat Pack, which has been in the news for much different reasons recently. But Warner Brothers has kind of had an up and down year. They've had phenomenal successes. It Dunkirk, Wonder Woman. Yeah. But they've also had 3 of the biggest high-profile, big-budget bombs of the year, which would be Geostorm, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, and a movie that we're going to talk about in a second that breaks our heart to talk about.
In this
Blade Runner 2049, which is a financial disappointment, unfortunately.
Well, Geostorm needed more Geostorm, and Blade Runner needed more audience. People did not come out for Blade Runner. It's such a... We suspected as much.
We did. The last episode we did before everything that happened, we were discussing Blade Runner's prospects and that we weren't quite sure if the audience would show up to see it. They did. They
did not, and it's a bummer. Look. This movie, I think Warner knew as well, was a big ask of audiences.
Yeah.
It's long. It is thought provoking. It's thoughtful. It doesn't say blockbuster.
It is a 2 hour and 45-minute deep, heavy, opaque sci-fi movie, and
it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful movie, but it's not a mass crowd movie. This is a movie that was budgeted $150 million. It's made $85 million so far here in the U.S. It's made about $250 million worldwide. So it's not a complete disaster, but it's not going to make enough money to be considered a success when you add in advertising, marketing, promotion. There are no angel countries out there still. It did not do well at all in China. There are no saviors that are going to come in and swoop in and save Blade Runner 2049. In a way, when you look at this movie, it's kind of miraculous that it made $250 million worldwide, because it is very... I mean, I think part of it was, I know that Denis Villeneuve had a vision, but to budget this at $150 million was risky to begin with.
And it's crazy because that's what he says. He says he said he couldn't believe that they gave him the money. This is why we don't generally see $150 million art films.
Yeah.
And we had talked about this in the last episode we did as well about Blade Runner, where in a way the worst thing for a studio is for something to almost work.
Right.
Because if it is an out-and-out disaster like Geostorm, or and it loses money, then they can write that off, right? But if it makes any amount of money, but just a little bit, then they have to sit with that.
They have to sit with it, and it was a critical success. A lot of the audiences seem to respond to it. It's just hard to attract people to that sort of movie, and I get it. It's not a repeat viewing. People aren't going to go see it 2 or 3 times. That's
some nerds are.
Some nerds, sure, some nerds, but a lot of people aren't going to do that. They're going to go see it in the theater and say like, great, I'm going to buy that in 4K or whatever, watch it at home. If there's any consolation, it's that Blade Runner 2049 is in good company with the original Blade Runner. Another well-regarded, even kind of less so critically at the time, but another well-regarded sci-fi film. Not a financial success when it was released.
Not a financial, and it wasn't a critical success either at first. It built both ways over time. You know what is a repeat watch, just fun popcorn movie? Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day.
That turned out to be kind of the, other than It, which came out in September, this kind of turned out to be the breakout Halloween horror hit. And the reason I wanted to flag this was not so much that it was a huge blockbuster in the sense that it made, broke box office records, made hundreds of millions of dollars, but Happy Death Day, made by Blumhouse, which has had some phenomenal successes this year. They've done Split, they did Get Out, they did this movie. Happy Death Day had a budget of $4.8 million, less than $5 million. It's made over 50 here in the US, $78 million worldwide. And I put these numbers together, and this is insane. Between Split, Get Out, and Happy Death Day, just this year, those 3 titles combined, which Blumhouse did all 3 of them, or produced all 3 of them, have grossed a worldwide total of over $600 million off of a budget combined for all 3 of them of less than $20 million.
I know, that Blumhouse model.
That is insane. Like that model and the fact that you can get that kind of success, that is absolutely insane. I mean, it's crazy.
What's great about their model, and I think so brilliant, is that in there you have things that are disastrously unsuccessful or shelved altogether because they just take risks. They just sort of make films, and even some that are smaller budgets than the 5 million budgets we're seeing on these films. And they take these risks, and sometimes they don't work out. But when they do, they're so massively proud. The margin, the ROI is so, return on investment, is so high that it makes it all worth it, right? Like, I wish we could do this though on films outside of horror. I just don't really think it would work.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a part of it.
I wish you could find the Jason Blum of dramas and comedies and stuff, because
too.
I mean, what they smartly do is, they produce these movies and they go out to strategic partners like Universal, who I know were involved with, again, all 3 of these movies. I believe they were with Split. They were definitely with Happy Death Day and Get Out, to help with distribution, to help with overhead, but they produce these kind of quality products on, again, these budgets are so small. I mean, they just subsidize 10 years for them, 10 years worth of movie making with the profits of 1 year of these movies. So
they are also behind things like Whiplash too. Now, I don't know, and I'll fact check myself later, if they acquired Whiplash when it was already made, or if they had helped finance it. I'm not sure. I think they maybe acquired it. But in any event, maybe Jason Blum is going to be the Jason Blum of dramas and comedies. I hope so.
I just think that it just goes to show, you're starting to see that with bigger movies like Logan and Deadpool. Hopefully this is going to be the kind of producing mindset that you see now, is modest budgets, and you just find somebody. I mean, Jason Blum obviously has a good eye for talent. He's got a good eye for concepts that'll work, and how to make a movie, not cheaply in the sense that it looks cheap, but thriftily, making sure that they're budgeted what they need. They can make the movie that they want to make. And I mean, the profits have just been insane. And I wish that more studios would kind of look at it this way, because I mean, so many ups and downs at the box office this year. What Blumhouse has done to help bring these projects to the success that they have, and they're all,
good movies,
good concepts, easy to sell, very crowd pleasing. I don't know. It's been a really phenomenal year for them.
So let's look at, and this is a movie I haven't seen yet on the top per screen, but is this the number 1 top per screen of the year?
Yeah. There was a movie that opened this weekend called Lady Bird. Per screen average $91,000 and made $364,000 off of 4 screens. This is the best per screen debut of the year. The Big Sick held that previously when it opened, but per screen, which means take the amount of money that it earned over the weekend and divide it by the number of screens it was on. It made $91,000 a screen, and this is a great movie. I saw it
you see
yesterday. I
it?
saw it last night. Written and directed by Greta Gerwig. Saoirse Ronan is great in this. Laurie Metcalf, who plays her mother, you might know her from Roseanne.
Sure,
She was
yeah.
in Scream 2.
Yeah.
She's kind of been one of these journeyman actors who takes supporting roles, character parts, one of those faces that you recognize. She is fantastic in this movie. She needs to get an Oscar nomination. I hope that A24, which they will put out a weird movie. I saw Free Fire and a few of the others they put out this year were not quite my cup of tea. But A24,
But they have such a good track record.
they have a really good track record. They're the ones behind this movie. I hope that A24 mounts an Oscar campaign for this movie, for Laurie Metcalf, for Saoirse Ronan, for Greta Gerwig. This is just a delightful movie, a little slice
money.
of humanity. They do cost money, but A24 was able to take room and Brie Larson
that's
to a
true.
Best Actress award just a couple years ago. So
true.
I hope that they're able to mount a campaign for this movie because it's a really great little movie. It's expanding nationwide over the next couple weeks. If it is playing near you, look for it. I highly recommend it. One of my favorites of the year.
Ooh.
And just a great, sweet, honest, poignant, kind-hearted, not cynical in any way, observational movie. So
I am
I'm very
sold.
happy to see that it opened so well per screen, and I
was
hope
already
it
on
continues to do well.
my number one. Lady Bird. I had saw people tweeting about it all weekend, and it was on my number one. I watched a movie at home, which I'll tell you about later because I did not love it.
Fair enough.
Let's look at domestically.
Yeah, our top 10 list, U.S. world so far this year. Nothing's really changed since we were here last time. Every movie's pretty much in the exact same slot that it was. Doesn't look like it's going to be able to take over Spider-Man's slot, but still $325 million. That's not bad for just the U.S. But the real reason to look at this is that Batman is a dead Batman walking because Lego Batman will probably be gone from this list next week. Thor Ragnarok is going to bump it out of that number 10 spot. So this isn't changed for now, but we're going to be swapping out superhero movies because Lego Batman, it's been there since February.
Yeah.
Not a bad run for Lego Batman. Thor's going to jump in there. And of course, as we go on, I think there's going to be at least one other movie
Jumping on that.
into that list.
Does it
and probably
end in
it ends
certain
in Star
star?
Wars. Yes. And begins with S. So Lego Batman is going to be off that top 10 list, but still hanging in since February. Not a bad run. But we talked about this as a possibility. This happened the month that we were gone.
In the world.
Let's look at the worldwide box office. We didn't know if it was going to happen. It happened. Let's take a look. It jumped into the top 10 list, which means that Transformers: The Last Night has dropped out of the worldwide top 10.
You guys can't see it, but there's confetti falling down, and there's a band in the back.
Congratulations, world.
You did
good.
it.
You did
We
good,
did it.
planet Earth.
We did it, Earth.
Transformers:
We did it together.
The Last Night knocked out of the top 10 by It.
By a good movie.
By a good movie. Logan,
Hanging.
bittersweet. Not going to be hanging in there for long. Thor Ragnarok's going to be bumping Logan out here in a week or two. But
Okay.
Transformers: The Last Night, I would never have called this. I said this movie was going to make $1 billion. I said it early and often. I was wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy it's gone. I hope there's never another Transformers movie on the top 10. 50 Shades 2 was knocked out. So,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't seen Wolf Warrior 2 still. Still
hanging in number 5.
Still hanging in
I
at
just
number
saw
5.
that.
Happy to see that list, though. By and large, Pirates, but by and large, not a bad list. So
Thor's going to get in there, and then we're going to
Thor's
have
gonna
another.
jump in there, and then
Wars of Tar.
Wars of Tar. Tar Wars is
Tarth
gonna
Wars.
Darth Vader is gonna jump in there and probably dominate that.
Probably
entire
go to
show.
number 1. You
Probably.
think it'll end up at number 1 when
Yeah.
all is said and done? Yeah.
I think so. I mean, Force Awakens made so much money, and I don't think this is gonna make as much, but I think it's probably it's at least gonna join that $1 billion club.
You know, we have to look forward to this weekend.
What do we have to look forward to this weekend?
Agatha Christie.
I guess Murder on the Orient
Yeah.
Express is coming out this weekend. We're going to review it here on Screen Junkies News. I think is Daddy's Home 2 coming out
Daddy's
this week?
Home 2.
coming out soon.
Daddy's Home 2 Murder. Lots of things.
Murder on the Daddy
Express.
on the Daddy's Home Express coming out this weekend. But yeah, Kenneth Branagh, all-star cast. This is another one I have no meter for how it's going to do. I don't know if audiences are going to love it or if audiences are going to go, nah.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier in a brainstorming session that we had. I'll just give you a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Agatha Christie movies. I've seen a bunch of them. I don't know particular. I guess I just like murder mysteries, but I don't. I think I was literally the only one in the room that had. So I don't think there's a huge audience appetite for it. But this is an all-star cast. It's such a weird movie. It's Kenneth Branagh. It's, speaking of Thor, he did the first one. It's an all-star and many
Daisy
other
Ridley,
things.
Josh Gad,
It's
Johnny
an all-star
Depp.
cast. It's like. It looks really hokey and weird in the marketing, but also Kenneth Branagh's a pretty good filmmaker, so I have to imagine it's okay. We're going to find out tonight.
We are.
And then we will report back. But yeah, I have no sense of how this is going to do.
I don't either. You know when we'll find out?
Next weekend?
Next week, right here.
Charting
as
it
we
down.
break down the box office results. Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to be back.
So good.
I know people might have expected more charts, but there was so much to talk about that was just not chart worthy. I just wanted to talk.
Yeah.
Just wanted to chat.
Sometimes we just want to chat, not chart.
Exactly. Chat, not chart. Next week we'll chart.
We hope that you guys have fun chatting in the comments below. Please do always be nice to each other. I'm Roth Cornet.
I'm Dan Murrell.
And we will see you next week.